Hello everyone, and today I'll be reading A Scaramouche Listener by me. So let's get into it. Scaramouche loved you to bits. He truly did. Everything about you made him go crazy, just from how in love he was. There were so many things he adored about you. The way you looked at him, the way you held him, and the way you would stroke his hair at night, reading him stories, just to get him to relax, since you knew he had trouble sleeping and was very restless. There were so many things he loved. Too many things, in fact. And to be honest, he was kind of weirded out by it. Because Scaramouche never once knew that there could be that much love in his heart. But I guess every day you learn something new. And lately, he's been learning to love with you. You make him so happy on a whole other level. And he feels so lucky to have you, to be able to see you. Whenever he wakes up every day, he feels like he's allowed to see one part of the world, the most beautiful part that no one will ever get to have. You're something to him. You're a precious treasure that descended from heavens, an angel that he was going to love and cherish till his last dying breath. So no wonder he'd be truly overprotective over you. After all, who wouldn't want to protect his love? And Scaramouche took it to a whole new level sometimes. He was ruthless with everyone who made you upset. And if anyone even hurt you in the slightest way possible, then he'd hurt them tenfold. And of course, he would do that, all without your knowledge. Because he knew how kind and soft-hearted you could be, and how you would never want to hurt a fly. He loved you for that, and for that same reason, he could not let you know at all. So that's why he kept it a secret. But lately, ever since you started visiting your family again, after you returned from your trip, your smiles have wilted, and so did your mental health. He was not really the best example to talk about when it came to mental health, but he knew something was wrong, even if he couldn't pinpoint it yet. He knew you were upset, and something was bothering you, and that you were hiding whatever it was so he wouldn't know. He didn't know why you felt like a burden, even though he tried his best to make you know that whatever was your problem was automatically his too. However, he wouldn't stop there. He kept hugging you and cuddling you, kissing you whenever he can, and trying to be so much kinder to you than he already was, hoping that he can reassure you and bring a smile to your face. And eventually you would tell him what's wrong, until at one point, he caught you crying in your room when he wasn't supposed to be there. He'd come early from work that day, and it seemed like your father was there too. He didn't know why your father was here at all, and if anything, he'd never seen him before, since you refused to show him to your family and told him that they were just busy or couldn't see him, and that's why the family meeting has been so delayed. But it turns out that your father was here on a visit for some unknown reason, and Scaramouche had just walked in and you're crying, and your father holding you by the wrist roughly. And before I knew it, your father was going to slap you. That's when his instincts took over, and he kicked the man into the nearest wall. He screamed at him, telling him to stop because you were so shocked by everything. But you just glared at him, unable to focus on your voice, and focusing on the man who was hurting you. Be it maybe he was your dad or anyone else. He didn't care. He was hurting you, and that's all that mattered. And his priority here was protecting you. So nothing would take that priority or change it. Mayan, what has been happening behind my back? Scaramouche, that's my dad. You can't just do this. We are talking and discussing things. You don't need to worry about me. You say hurriedly, thinking he just forgot him, since he didn't meet him before. But Scaramouche knew everything about you. It's part of him working on the Fatui. He knew too much about your family, and your relatives, your friends, everything there was to know. But had he known more, and had he known that your father was like this, he may have gotten rid of him way sooner. Wyan, does he always do this to you? He said, his voice eerily quiet and low, and you couldn't help but nod, unable to lie to him when he was like this, feeling like you were scared for the first time ever since you started dating him. But he just dragged him out, telling him that you will deal with him later. And it just so turns out that he had summoned his lackeys to take him away for him to deal with. And when they got back, he just held you close. And that's when you could feel him trembling because he held you, kissing you, and looking you over for more injuries. There was only a bruise in your arm, and there seemed to be older ones. He just frowned at them, looking up at you, with sad eyes, concern lacing them. Skara, I couldn't tell you. I didn't want to upset you. I didn't want to be a burden more than I already am. You're not a burden, Wyan. Don't just say that. It's wrong. I know you're not. But, Skara, please, don't say that again, he said, and he seemed closer to tears. And you couldn't interrupt him, because you knew you'd be upsetting him too. So you just held him, the two of you holding each other, as if it were the only thing that mattered. And Scaramouche just kissed your cheek one more time, stroking your hair, before getting a first aid kit, and icing your bandages, treating out whatever injuries you had. And internally, he promised himself that you would never let that bastard hurt you again. And once you ask him about your father, he tells you he's just fine, and he just needs to have a talk with him. And guaranteed he does have that talk, and a little bit more. And when you go see him, he's just fine. But for some reason, he won't even talk to you anymore. At least not in the attitude he used to. Perhaps there was a chance for everything to go right. You really thought that Skira had changed him. But it took a little bit of threats, and maybe some more balance on his part and his colleagues, for everything to get into motion. And if you ask Skira, he totally thinks it's worth it if he sees your smile again.